I'm Karen, age 27, and my husband Steven is also 27. We tied the knot just last year, both juggling full-time jobs. I work as a nurse, and Steven is in pharmaceutical sales. Our paths had crossed before, but it was at a coworker's happy hour event that we truly connected. Being a fan of good drinks, the after-work cocktails that evening were especially delightful. Though we had encountered each other previously, that night marked the first time we engaged in meaningful conversation. Our drink preferences aligned, and we hit it off effortlessly. Each encounter thereafter was enjoyable and easy, quickly leading us into a dating relationship. On my birthday, Steven opened up about his feelings, and we officially became a couple. Our favorite dates revolve around discovering hidden gems that offer excellent drinks. I'm partial to wine, while Steven leans towards sake. Our differing tastes add a fun dynamic, allowing us to share and learn new things from one another. As our relationship progressed, thoughts of marriage started to occupy my mind. It was during this time that I delved into Steven's background. His parents had divorced when he was young, and he never knew his father, being raised by his single mom with whom he shares a close bond. Steven has never moved out of his family home. Initially, I questioned whether this was a flaw or a testament to his strong family values. Love often clouds judgment, and at that point, I viewed it as a positive trait. Steven is not only kind but incredibly handsome, and I struggled to find any flaws. Feeling fortunate to be married to the seemingly perfect man, I was unaware of the daunting married life that awaited me. Before our wedding, I frequently shared meals with my mother-in-law, who always spoke highly of me to Steven, saying, "Karen is like a daughter to me. Don't let her get away, marry her soon." Hearing those words always brought me joy, and I eagerly anticipated officially becoming part of the family. Steve, who had a knack for connecting with people, also had an excellent reputation with my parents. The wedding went off without a hitch, reflecting our shared preference for avoiding the limelight. Post-wedding, Steven made the significant move out of his family home for the first time. However, out of concern for his mom, we opted for an apartment just a 10-minute walk from his family residence. In hindsight, that choice proved to be a mistake, but regrets come too late. The dynamic with my mother-in-law shifted drastically after the wedding. Once treating me like a daughter, she transformed into someone who seemed to view me as a mortal enemy, visiting our home daily. With care, I approached Steven, expressing, "I appreciate your mom's visits, but it's challenging for me to relax. Could you ask her to come less frequently on workdays?" Steven's response was unexpected, as he asserted, "Why? We're family now. Mom gets lonely, she loves to talk, and she hates being alone. I wish she would be more understanding. This is my home too, and I can't convey something I don't believe. If you have something to say it yourself. I won't." It was a surprising turn, and Steven's refusal to consider my perspective left me taken aback. From that day forward, any mention of his mother made Steven moody, prompting me to withhold my thoughts to avoid further arguments. My mother-in-law took advantage of the situation, and before I realized it, Steven had given her a spare key. One day, I returned home to find my mother-in-law cooking in our kitchen without permission. Surprised to discover her in my personal space, my tone turned assertive. "What are you doing, mother-in-law? You can't just come in here without asking," she retorted. "What's going on with your fridge? It's practically empty. I have never seen such a lifeless fridge. Do you even cook? Don't tell me you're always buying deli items." Unable to hold back any longer, I responded, "I shop for fresh ingredients daily. I've heard your fridge is always packed like a traffic jam. It's impressive you can manage that. I just bought ingredients today. Sure, we have deli days, but I also cook to save money. And by the way, deli food these days is pretty good. Haven't you ever tried it?" Mother-in-law wasn't backing down. "I'll listen to you. I would rather not have Steven eat food when we don't even know who made it. This is what happens when he marries an incompetent wife. I should have taught him to be more discerning about women." Sparks ignited between us, and once I began expressing my grievances, words poured out uncontrollably. "Do you see the shopping bag, mother-in-law? Not a single deli item in it. I'm busy, so could you please not get in my way? You're not even a guest anymore. You let yourself in. Mother-in-law stormed out, her face flushed with anger. I'll tell Stephen about this. I had more to say, but she left. Despite feeling uncomfortable, I knew I was justified. Shaking off the negative vibes, I focused on cooking pot roast. When Stephen returned home, his face mirrored his mother's anger. What'd you say to Mom? She called me crying. How could you be so cruel when she was just trying to help because you're busy? Baffled, I responded, first off, breaking into someone's home isn't a surprise. And if it is, then a burglar should be forgiven if they call it a surprise, right? This happened because you gave her a spare key. She could have come when one of us was home. It's not only unnecessary, but also intrusive. What about my privacy? I have no intention of apologizing. Stephen looked shocked and with a single word said, please. Can you two just get along? He retreated to his room without eating dinner. Hoping this dispute would make him more considerate, I endured days of minimal communication. Unable to bear the tension, I initiated a conversation saying, what do you want to do going forward? I don't want a relationship where we don't communicate. Let's talk. Finally, Stephen spoke up, saying, Mom's remorseful. She was crying yesterday, worried you would never forgive her. The root cause was me giving her the spare key. I'm sorry, Karen. I didn't care about mother-in-law as long as Stephen understood. That was enough. My weakness showed, and I forgave him, even though I knew in the back of my mind, my fault is that I forgive. Stephen promptly called his mother, who eagerly came running, visibly relieved to be summoned. Exhausted from the ongoing conflict, I harbored a bad feeling but was willing to give peace a chance. As soon as mother-in-law saw my face, it was as if a switch had been turned on. Oh, I'm so relieved. I thought Karen would never speak to me again. I know I overstepped, and I promised never to do it again. Mother-in-law began speaking in a voice as sweet as if she were addressing a cat. Despite my reservations, she pulled out a mysterious bag from her purse. I met an old friend from college yesterday. She's unbelievably youthful and beautiful. She gave me some Chinese tea. That's her beauty secret. I thought I'd share some with you, not that you need it. My instincts raised concern, but I felt awkward refusing. Stephen whispered, just have 1 cup of tea with her. I'll make sure she leaves as soon as possible. Wanting her gone, I reluctantly agreed to the tea. I'd always enjoyed Chinese tea, and it's popular at my workplace too. Mother-in-law quickly poured hot water into the tea pack. This tea is supposed to be good for your skin and boost female hormones. You guys are thinking about having kids soon, right? If you like it, I'll tell my friend to get some for you, she said, placing the cup in front of me. The aroma was a bit unusual, but I took a sip anyway. It tasted strange, but I dismissed it, thinking it was just a new flavor. However, my bad feeling came true. I woke up in the middle of the night with stomach pain, feeling half faint. By the time I felt better, it was already morning. There was no doubt about it. The only thing I had consumed that Stephen hadn't was the suspicious Chinese tea. I told Stephen about it, but he didn't take me seriously. Karen, that's a terrible accusation. Mom brought the tea to make amends. You're making it sound like she poisoned you. Don't you feel ashamed? It's probably just an upset stomach. Mom would never do something like that. Stephen wouldn't believe that I was being malicious, but without evidence, I couldn't press the issue. Still, I have been wary of anything from mother-in-law since then. Just before Stephen's birthday, mother-in-law called, Karen, I'm cooking for Stephen's birthday. Say you can come or not, it's up to you. You're busy, right? Maybe you should take some time to refresh yourself. She was planning to celebrate Stephen's birthday without me. I hadn't dared to eat anything from her since that day, and homemade food was out of the question. But I was planning to spend Stephen's birthday together, so I felt upset. I thought we would spend his birthday together since we are newlyweds. I assume you have celebrated with him every year until now, so from now on it's my turn. Before I could complete my sentence, she abruptly interrupted me. Regardless, I insist on Stephen returning home. Karen, your presence is optional. We can defer the celebration of your birthday to next month, all right? I left the decision in Steph's hands. That nickname of hers, Steph responded, "Did you catch that? You have the freedom to do whatever you please on that day." Without hesitation, he favored his mother-in-law over me, and my patience was wearing thin. On Stephen's birthday, his enthusiasm was contagious, but it left me feeling queasy. My affection for him began to dwindle. He relished celebrating exclusively with his mom, transforming into more of a mama's boy. Their dining outings became more frequent. I'm occupied with work and can't dwell on this all the time. A month flew by, and it was my birthday. Traditionally, we celebrated at our favorite restaurant. I assumed this year would follow suit, but Stephen surprised me. Mom wants to join in the celebration. She'd be happiest if the two of you could get along. I was taken aback, frozen in shock. Stephen, still exuberant, remained oblivious. I expressed, "I wanted to celebrate with just you, Stephen. We spent your birthday together, so let's do the same for mine." Stephen, for some inexplicable reason, interpreted it as politeness. No need to hold back. Mom offered, so it's fine. He just couldn't grasp it. With no other option, I had to be resolute. No offense to mother-in-law, but I want to spend my birthday exclusively with you. I'd like to go to our special restaurant. Suddenly, Stephen erupted in anger. "Don't reject Mom's kindness. You're heartless. Haven't you realized she didn't invite you to my birthday? Just comply with my wishes. It's already a hassle." I was done arguing. And then came my birthday. Instead of the anticipated restaurant outing, we were at home, with mother-in-law in tow. Neither of them seemed attuned to my subdued mood. My frustration escalated as I observed them enjoying themselves in the kitchen. Then the lights dimmed, and the cake made its entrance. Despite my anger, the cake provided a brief respite before I blew out the candles. Mother-in-law excitedly announced a special gift for my birthday celebration. I splurged on a $5,000 bottle of wine. "Let's uncork it right away." The packaging appeared worn, and the cork crumbled at the touch. "Is this what they call vintage?" she pondered aloud, pouring a generous amount into my glass. Even in the subdued lighting, it was evident that the wine had an unsettling cloudiness. Recollections of the Chinese tea mishap flooded my mind as I cautiously took a small sip. "What is this?" I immediately spat it out, prompting me to turn on the lights. In the kitchen sink, I inverted the bottle of mother-in-law's supposedly extravagant $5,000 wine, watching as it flowed down the drain. Stephen swiftly seized the bottle from my hands, scolding me, "You're being awful." Apologized to Mom. "What do you think you're doing?" The anger etched on Stephen's face was unmistakable. Under Stephen's intense gaze, I poured some wine into the glass he was holding. "Can you drink this then?" Stephen appeared puzzled yet resolute as he took a sip. At that precise moment, mother-in-law urgently shouted, "Stephen, don't drink it." Unfortunately, it was too late. He immediately spat it out, exclaiming, "What on earth is this?" Mother-in-law, shocked, took the wine away from Stephen. He questioned, "Mom, where did you get this wine? We need to file a complaint. This is fraud. It's spoiled." Mother-in-law, looking guilty, admitted, "That wine was just sitting in the back of our kitchen. It's 50 years old. I heard on TV that it gains $1,000 in value every year. Vintage wines are supposed to be stored in wine coolers." Upon closer examination, the cork was more deteriorated than initially thought, emitting a moldy odor. Even Stephen couldn't conceal his surprise. What bothered me was mother-in-law's insistence. "Don't drink it." I suspect she knew it was spoiled, but she would never admit it. I couldn't find it in me to forgive mother-in-law for her actions. "Could you please leave? I can't control my emotions. Just go," I implored. Yet even as I spoke, mother-in-law continued to offer excuses to Stephen. I felt invisible, but even she, visibly uncomfortable, hurriedly departed. Once she was gone, Stephen surprised me with his response. "Mom doesn't drink, so she wouldn't have known." Thankfully, we didn't offer it to anyone else. Despite everything, Stephen defended mother-in-law as if it were an innocent mistake. In that moment, my feelings for him cooled. My determination against Stephen solidified as he defended mother-in-law despite her actions against me. I had ignored his excessive attachment to his mother for too long. I want a divorce, I declared, presenting Stephen with divorce papers I had kept just in case. He was rendered speechless, questioning my decision. Ask yourself, do you comprehend how much I've endured? I've reached my breaking point. Then, to compound matters, he offered a profound apology without prompting, stating, I won't repeat it. You've won. He proceeded to confess to multiple affairs, revealing 4 different women. Though I had harbored suspicions of infidelity, learning the truth left me shocked. There was no longer any doubt. I was determined to divorce him. Engaging a private investigator seemed unnecessary. Evidence of his affairs was abundant. During our conversation, he foolishly remarked, You'll regret divorcing someone as great as me. Stephen's words only fueled my disgust at myself for ever loving him. Multiple affairs and his attachment to his mother provided ample grounds for divorce. To streamline the process, I resolved to hire a lawyer, regardless of the cost. Initially resistant to the divorce, Stephen eventually relented, likely recognizing the gravity of his mistakes. He returned to his doting mother, and later it surfaced that his affair was with a co-worker, leading to his demotion. Unable to distance himself from his mother, Stephen ultimately resigned from his job. Despite his ongoing job hunt, word of his workplace indiscretions had spread rapidly, hindering his prospects in the same field. Persistently tethered to his mother, he settled for part-time work. Given his arrogant and unreliable demeanor, it seems unlikely that he will maintain the job for an extended period. While I rely on his steady employment to receive alimony, the payments are currently consistent, so I'll count that as a win. I discovered that mother-in-law, who had presented herself as superior, was in fact a hoarder. Stephen's family home turned out to be a literal dump, explaining their reluctance to have me over. As the stench became a bother to neighbors, police intervention became necessary. The mere thought of consuming wine from that house still turns my stomach. Let Stephen live in his squalid environment and work his sporadic part-time jobs with his beloved mother-in-law for all I care. Though I've returned to my previous life, I find happiness in the absence of torment. No longer will Stephen disrupt my workplace, providing a welcome relief. In hindsight, Stephen possessed good looks but little else. The fact that he complies with alimony payments is a silver lining, I suppose. The breakup taught me a valuable lesson. Love is, indeed, blind. This time, I'm putting romance on hold to focus on my career. I've learned my lesson and am determined to prioritize my professional pursuits.